Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Bill C-10, introduced by the Liberal government in Canada, is in fact a replication of an excellent book, 1984, written by George Orwell, and to a great extent, Brave New World. Maybe Canada is going to be a brave new world where 1984 would be the Constitution. The Bill C-10 incorporates those principles which are enshrined in the capability of the big brother who oversees, who modulates your thoughts, sees your actions, punishes. And if the idea of the government controlling what you can read online, what you can post online, what videos you can view, doesn't strike you as quite right, then yes, you might be a Canadian and are in fact to be prepared for these very things. Sadly, the government of Canada is now putting forward this legislation to get and assume powers that are normally associated with tin-pot dictatorships or with totalitarian states like China, Russia, Cuba, Hungary, and so on. Currently before the House of Commons, Bill C-10 would give government the power to regulate any account that you generate and you post online. Your video ranting on the Twitter, dancing on TikTok, or pontificating on the Facebook would be treated as a radio or television broadcast. So, it's no longer a social media, it's a regulated media. Previously, the legislation had an exemption for user-generated contents, which gave certain freedom, but that was stripped at the behest of the Liberals about a few weeks back. This is remarkable and a dangerous step which is beyond comprehension. As a matter of fact, when I look at the bill, I can only say that this is the whole way a progress towards a totalitarian state, where your thoughts are controlled and there might be thought police. Your words are controlled, which may not be libelous or defamatory. Your expression is at a discount. I have to be brutal in this. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, these are important freedoms enshrined in the Bill of Rights. And here they are at stake. And by whom? By the so called liberal government. The government believes possibly that it should regulate all the user generated content, leaving it to the custodian or the regulator to determine what terms and conditions should be attached to the videos of millions of Canadians on sites like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and hundreds of other such services. As a matter of fact, this is the most anti-internet government in Canadian history, and it's going to be the most brutal silencing of the people's voice. It seems that the Liberal Party is hell-bent on erecting what you can call the Great Canadian Internet Firewall. The government wants to be able to block websites. It determines that Canadians should not see remove content posted in Canada without any independent review, and regulating your video posting using CRTC. Now, mind you, as far as the media is concerned, which is always singing the praise of to the government, that is funded by the government. $600 million were given. You and I, when we post, we are not funded by the government. It's our own ideas, our own thoughts. I remember I was in Ottawa a few years back. It was a Word Press Freedom Day, and I was listening to the CBC Beijing Bureau Chief, Patrick Brown, and he was talking about how it was in China with the internet censorship. And I remember a very interesting story that he told. He told the story of a young woman killed by a local Communist Party leader who was driving recklessly. It happens. You're driving in a fit of intoxication of power, arrogance, and everything. And the woman, poor woman, just happened to be there and she was killed. And the locals started sharing stories online at what happened. Look, this should have been sufficient enough. The person should have been arrested for involuntary manslaughter at the least or reckless driving. But no, the government came and started censoring those stories. People began to post in ways so that the name of the person is not there. That did not include the party's official name, but the censorship continued. And then they started searching for BMW. Wherever the post was regarding BMW killing a person, that was removed because that was the make of the car the official was driving. So, according to Patrick Brown, the same thing is going to happen in Canada. The bill won't put Canada in a state of a gulag, but it would be in the same position as China. It does put us on the same path and gives government all the tools they need to take control of the internet. And internet, as the Supreme Court of India recently said, is a part of the fundamental rights today. There was a time when it was not, but today it's as important as breathing. As much as we want to think that it won't be the cat video that our grandma might post, or maybe a friend would post, it is those things that should be regulated by CRTC. Ridiculous, don't you agree? As if CRTC has nothing to do but to control 38 million Canadians saying what they want to say. As a matter of fact, the Conservatives are opposing the bill. NDP is supporting it as usual because NDP is the B team of the Liberal Party. But what's more amazing is that the so called independent, unbiased mainstream media is absolutely deaf, dumb, mute. And the community leaders are quiet. As a matter of fact, it's quite possible that Bill C-10 would be challenged in a court of law is a constitutional challenge. It violates Section 2B of the Right and Freedom Charter. Section 2B of the Charter of Rights states very clearly, and I quote, everyone has freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of the press and other media of communication. Other media of communication. So if I'm thinking that the Bill C-10 is wrong, and I'm communicating to you via this live comment, then I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm just expressing my opinion. But when the bill passes, what I'm doing today would be censored, maybe By this time, the internet connection would have been disconnected and other action would follow. And then don't forget, this Charter of Rights and Freedom was brought in and practiced by none other than the father of the present Prime Minister. I'm talking of Pierre Trudeau. In 1982, he made this charter, and this charter has become a byword in Canadian thought. It becomes such an important part, even so much so that people have challenged the lockdown, saying that it violates the Charter of Freedom. It seems that before the Charter can be 40 years old, Justin Trudeau wants to shred Pierre Trudeau's legacy. Maybe the son doesn't like the father as much as he professes. And it's time now for the government to stop and walk away from the dangerous legislation. And the legislation, which most probably, after it's passed, after the Swiss Royal Assent, would be challenged in a court of law. And again, most probably, would be tossed out and thrown in the garbage bin. And then, Trudeau's heritage minister, Stephen Gilbert, is putting forward this bill that will censor everything the Liberals deem objectionable. You will see Canadian content blocked unless approved by Trudeau and his cronies. Now, how does it affect you? It is basically cheered by the proponents, especially for the powers to silence online noises. So, anybody who protests is a dangerous sign and a dangerous precedent. So, it's not just an infringement of free expression, it's in fact an assault on the most sacred rights. This is the most radical position Trudeau has ever taken in silencing opposition. And as a matter of fact, no other prime minister in the history of Canada has ever done so. If you remember, there was a recent pro C-10 tweet from anti-conservative Twitter account Defund Baker. There's no problem with that. But as I said, are we turning Canada into Korea, North Korea, I mean, or China, or Cuba, which is a loved country of Justin Trudeau? Now, what happens if this bill passes? A, the Trudeau government will be able to block your ability to watch any video content they don't like. So, restriction on your watching something which is according to the Liberal government or the Liberal Party, not in your taste. It's like a father, saying, look at my child, don't look at this movie, this is pornography. So here the government becomes a big brother, the father. Being paternalistic is okay, but being dictatorial is definitely not acceptable. The second, this, you'll be targeting all liberal, really human ideas. Don't forget that this law is, in fact, rather this bill, I shouldn't say law, it is still not passed. This bill is a replica of the acts passed in North Korea about 15 years back and by China after the Cultural Revolution. And what is the Liberal Party's excuse for pushing the bill? They say it is to tackle unlicensed music and movies. Now, what a misuse of camouflage. Or rather, it is a use of the Muslim concept of taqiyya. The concept of taqiyya is very clear. You can cheat, you can lie if it furthers your interest and your desires. Now, there are copyright laws which are already existing in Canada, and those copyright laws are sufficiently having strong teeth and power. So, there's a need of this bill. If it just supplements them, it's unnecessary. And if it enhances them, then it's a infringement of your rights. Then the multiple experts, I mean, say, forget me, other experts, constitutional lawyers, human rights advocates, and so on, have called this bill an assault on freedom. And I'm amazed that even the commissioner of the Canadian Radio Television Telecommunication Commission, popularly known CRTC. Now, CRTC would be the overseeing power. And the former commissioner of CRTC says, no, this bill is absolutely abhorrent, hateful, and would destroy the entity called Canada. This would be, in fact, the beginning of totalitarianism. No, beginning has already been made. This would be the final picturization of totalitarianism and dictatorship. And the heaven of Mao, conceived by Mao and actualized by Z, would be shifted to Canada. So Canada would be living in the shadow of China in the same way, crushing you, turning millions into labor camps where you cannot speak, and the ringmaster is around you all the time, cracking the whip. Do you want that situation to happen? If you do not, tell your MPs, tell your government, this far and no further. Our freedom of expression, our rights, our charter is inviolable, and you have no right to violate it. It's not a sacrilege. It would be constitutional, but it is sacrilegious. It is abhorrent act, and the sooner we curb it, the better it would be for the nation and for the humanity at large. Think about it. Thank you.